McKinsey and BCG are two of the biggest names in the management consulting industry. But which one is better to work at? You'll find out in this video. There's a lot of similarities that McKinsey and BCG share, but before we talk about the similarities, let's talk about the differences. The first thing you want to note is their founding year. While you might be thinking, why does it matter when it was founded? You'll quickly notice that the difference in their founding years actually impacts how the firms are today. McKinsey was founded in 1926. This gave McKinsey a 40-year head start on BCG. That means that when you worked at McKinsey, you're able to reach out to a lot more alums who will open doors and other opportunities for you. That isn't to say that you can't do this with BCG. It just means that there's a lot more alumni in McKinsey. So that means that there's a lot more people to tap into. The second advantage that McKinsey had in starting earlier is that it has a bigger global presence. Currently right now, McKinsey has over 130 offices across more than 65 countries, compared to BCG, which isn't doing too bad itself, at over 100 offices across more than 50 countries. But if you do work at McKinsey, this means that you're going to have more opportunities to work globally as well as across different offices. So that's something to consider depending on what country you want to work at. The next big difference between BCG and McKinsey is how they choose to staff their projects. That is, how they determine who works on what project and where they work. At McKinsey, you have what's called a global staffing model. That means that even if you live and work in the Chicago office for McKinsey, you're still eligible to work in other places. For example, your project might be in Paris, France, versus BCG, which has a regional staffing model. What this means is that you could still work internationally for BCG, but more likely you're actually going to work pretty local. So this might mean that you're in the BCG Chicago office and you have a case down in Dallas, but less likely that you'll be working in Paris. So if traveling is important to you, consider McKinsey. How much you travel will depend on the project. You can see that on average, a BCG consultant will travel a lot less than a McKinsey consultant. The last big difference is the expertise. Over the years, McKinsey and BCG have a lot of overlapping capabilities as well as expertise, but there's a couple things that make each firm stand out in their own way compared to the other firm. For McKinsey, there's three types of expertise that stands out from BCG. Those are financial services, energy, and technology. While for BCG, there are also a handful of industries that stand out, where the expertise for BCG is a lot more recognized in the business world. This includes healthcare, consumer goods, digital services, and retail. While for a new consultant, this doesn't matter as much. Over time, these firm expertise will inform your career decisions as well. All right, so now that I talked about the differences, let's actually talk about the similarities. And there's a lot of similarities. The first one is the reputation and the global presence. As we talked about, both firms are global leaders when it comes to the consulting industry and in the business world. So having BCG or McKinsey on your resume is going to open a lot of doors for you.
Nice.
Second is that both firms will require you to work really hard. So while the travel will vary, the number of hours you're working is still quite high, anywhere between 55 to 70 hours on average. Again, the number of exact hours will vary depending on the client and where you're working, but regardless of the firm, you can expect to be working really hard. Third is both firms have very impressive talent development. Both firms really care about developing you as a person, and they're going to invest in making sure that you grow. And you can kind of see the growth and the type of people who work at these firms because you can look at the alums and be impressed with, no matter if it's a McKinsey alum or a BCG alum, the alumni network is quite impressive. For example, McKinsey alumni have gone on to do things such as being the CEO of Google and the CEO of Meta, while the BCG alumni have gone on to do things like being CEO of Kayak and CEO of Pepsi. So you can kind of see that within the business world, both are going to be quite impressive in terms of what you can do afterwards. The next thing that they have in common is the promotion path. While the titles might vary, the promotion cycle is pretty similar. At McKinsey, at the lowest level, you have business analysts, which are typically undergrads. They're in a service role up to 2 to 3 years before being promoted to an associate. So an associate can either come in as a promotion from a business analyst, or you have an MBA or a PhD, you can come in as an associate. You're going to typically stay in that role for about 2 to 3 years before being promoted to an engagement manager, which you'll typically stay at for another 2 to 5 years before being promoted to an associate partner, then a partner, and then a director. These timelines will vary depending on your field, your expertise, as well as if you take career breaks. BCG is very similar. Recent grads will start off as an associate, which you'll stay off for about 2 to 3 years before being promoted to a consultant. And if you have an MBA, PhD, or other degree, you can come straight into BCG as a consultant, where you'll spend 2 to 3 years before being promoted to a project leader, which you'll usually spend about 2 to 3 years before being promoted to a principal, where you'll stay another 1 to 3 years. And then you'll be a partner and then a managing partner. And like McKinsey, the partner to managing partner promotion will vary depending on your industry, your expertise, your office, as well as if you take any career breaks. And the recruitment process is very similar. Between both McKinsey and BCG, if you're a student, you're going to apply either online or through your student campus. And what you'll do is you'll submit your application as well as your student transcript. If you're an experienced hire, that is someone already working, you'll just apply online, uploading your application. And regardless if you're a student or an experienced hire, the process is as follows. First off, you might be asked to take a digital assessment, which is an online test to evaluate how well you can think like a consultant. After that, you're going to be invited to a series of what are known as case interviews and fit interviews. Here's where there is a slight difference. At McKinsey, your case interviews are what are known as interviewer-led format, And your behavioral interview is known as a personal experience interview. But I do have videos exploring both topics in more detail. At BCG, you're going to have what are called interviewee-like cases, and you're going to have a traditional behavioral interview. And if you are applying to McKinsey, BCG, or another consulting firm, and you want some help, I'll actually include a link below where you can book a free 30-minute strategy session with my team, where we're going to answer questions and make sure you're on the right path to landing your offer at McKinsey, BCG, or another amazing consulting firm. So now that you know the differences and the similarities between McKinsey and BCG, which one's actually the better firm to work at? Well, the answer to this is it depends on you, and it depends on your goal. The good news is that I've helped hundreds of candidates who at this point have had to decide between either applying to BCG, McKinsey, or both, or they gotten offers at both McKinsey and BCG, and they have to choose between which one they want to take. So the advice I always give them is to run through a couple questions. And these are the questions that I want you to think about as you're thinking about should you apply to one or the other, or if you have both offers, which one you should take. The first question I want you to ask yourself is, what do you want to do after McKinsey or BCG? As I mentioned earlier, both consulting firms work across a variety of different industries, and they have a global presence, but each firm has also their expertise. So if you already know that you want to end up in a certain location or in a certain field, I would recommend going with the firm that's going to help you get to that goal faster. So for example, if you're really thinking about healthcare, consider BCG. But let's say that you're unsure of what you want to do after McKinsey or BCG. How should you decide? Well, this is the second question I would ask if you're undecided. Is it more important for you to travel as a consultant or to get to know the people in your office? If traveling is more important, McKinsey is going to give you a lot more opportunities. But if you care more about making friends and connections with people in your office, BCG will be the better option. But let's say that you don't have a strong feeling about if you rather travel or get to know the people in your office. During your recruitment process, you're going to meet a lot of consultants from BCG as well as McKinsey. So if you're not set on a certain career path or that you have to travel or not, then the third criteria is look at the culture. I want you to think about who did you vibe with more? Who did you want to spend more time with? Was it the consultants that you met at BCG or was it the consultants you met at McKinsey? Because you're going to be spending a lot of time with them. So use the interview process, not just to get a job, but also to evaluate where you actually want to work. All right, so now you know the similarities, the differences, and which firm is better for you. So I'm curious, which firm are you thinking about applying to? Is it BCG? Is it McKinsey? Is it both? If you comment BCG, McKinsey, or both below, I'm gonna send you some additional resources to help you land that BCG offer, that McKinsey offer, or even both. So just comment below which firm you're applying to. And if you're 100% serious about becoming a management consultant, I want to do everything I can to help you get there. My team and I are former consulting recruiters, interviewers, and consultants, and we've helped over 700 people just like you start their careers at BCG, McKinsey, and other firms. And we want you to be our next success story. And all you have to do to get our help is to book a free 30-minute strategy session with our team. And during the call, my team and I will walk you through how we can help you land your consulting offer. And if your goal is to land offers at McKinsey and BCG and then have to face that tough decision of which firm do I want to work at, I want to share with you a story of someone who actually had that same journey named Sean. He landed offers at both McKinsey and BCG, and he had to decide which offer to take. I'm gonna let him share his story about how he landed both offers as well as how he decided which firm to work at. All right, I'm gonna include his video somewhere above my head. I'll see you in the next video.